How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Today we have a classic constructed Ninja Katsu deck tech. This is one of my personal favorite decks, as Katsu is actually the very first hero I ever played when I first started learning Flesh and Blood, starting off with those Welcome to Wraith starter decks. I played Katsu, my girlfriend played Dorinthia. She soundly kicked my butt, but I was hooked on the game, and you know, Katsu has been pretty close to me ever since then, even though I've been, leaning more towards Viserai and Azalea in recent memory. I will always remember Katsu. So today we have my personal classic constructed Katsu build. It's a pretty standard Katsu build. We're going to be slicing and dicing, attacking with some Kadachis. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get started, I do want to mention that I will have a full deck list in the description down below. Check that link out, as it does take you to FabDB, the premier deck building and database website for Flesh and Blood. They also do like articles and a bunch of other stuff like that, so definitely check out that deck list as well as FabDB. Also check out Red Riot Games. They have these really sweet Flesh and Blood playmats. I'm going to be getting one personally, kind of like feature it on the channel, like in the Flesh and Blood, in real life, or at least real life for me. So we're gonna check that out. Here are some images of the playmats. I think I'm gonna be getting a Dorinthia one. So yeah, look forward to that in a future video. They also have like an upcoming tournament thing. I'm gonna post all this stuff. Links in the description down below. I do have an affiliate link with Red Riot Games. They've been really excellent so far, so definitely check that out. And if you're from the US and you'd like to pick up Flesh and Blood singles, check out Fab Foundry. Also links in the description down below. I also have like an affiliate link with TCG Player and all that kind of stuff. But enough talk, more deck tech. Let's start talking about this Katsu the Wanderer classic constructed deck tech. Let's go.
Alright, so for today's deck tech, we're going to break this up a little bit differently than usual. We're going to break this up into combo, chains, and then card types after that. But first, let's talk about our starting equipment loadout, because we do have like a generic starting equipment loadout. We're going to talk about all the cards individually, and we'll talk about kind of like some sideboard options. You can tweak this deck quite a bit, and like I said, this is a pretty, I don't want to say generic, but pretty classic ninja style deck. The motto of this deck is death by 1,000 cuts. We're going to cut with our Kadachis as much as we can, and then supplement that with really powerful combo chains and then some supporting cards here. And all of our equipment helps us facilitate that, especially this Mask of Momentum here. But first of all, let's talk about our hero, Katsu the Wanderer. This is a really, really sweet hero. He's one of the classic starting Welcome to Wraith heroes. And let's get all of the tempura jokes out of the way. You got your chicken Katsu. Got your pork Katsu, beef Katsu. Okay, we're done. So we got Katsu the Wanderer. He's a ninja hero. He has a 4 hand size and a 40 starting life total. He says, the first time an attack action card you control hits each turn, you may discard a card with a cost of 0. If you do, search your deck for a card with combo, banish it face up, then shuffle your deck. You may play it this turn. So he basically lets you tutor your deck for combo cards, which is really, really good, which is why we're focusing on 2 very powerful combo chains. And keep in mind, you can only discard a card with a cost of 0. So that's really important. We're going to have a lot of cards in the deck that cost 0, and that's not the only place card cost 0 is referenced here. It's also referenced in his signature weapon, the Harmonized Kadachi. This is a once per turn action for a single resource attack. It has a damage of 1 here, and it says, if you have a card in your pitch zone with cost 0, Harmonized Kadachi gains go again, and it's only one-handed, so we gotta rock the dual Kadachis. And a really, really, classic, very common starting play on your turn is to pitch a card with either yellow pitch or blue pitch that costs 0, and then attack with a Kadachi, and then attack with the other Kadachi, because that really syncs up with what we want to do with our Mask of Momentum here. And we'll talk about that when we talk about Mask of Momentum next. But that's a really good way to just start off, because, in Flesh and Blood, you can't block like just a little bit of damage. You have to commit like either an equipment or a card from your hand to block, and you don't really want to commit, an entire card from your hand to block just a single Kadachi. So it's a good way to get a lot of just consistent damage in. And it's just really hard to defend against in general. And that's kind of what the Ninja deck is all about. It's just really good, consistent damage. Not a lot of huge damage, though we do have some pretty big damage, dealing cards in the deck. But, this is just a really good way. Kadachi, Kadachi, and then follow that up with another attack. I mentioned the Mask of Momentum, and here it is. This is the Ninja Legendary Equipment. This is a headpiece. It has a once per turn effect. When an attack action card you control is the 3rd or higher chain link in a row to hit, draw a card. That's super good. Your opponent does not want you to draw a card. Typically what happens is you attack with your Kodachi, attack with your second Kodachi, and they will usually block that second Kodachi just so you can't get that 3rd attack in, because it's a lot easier to hit with your 3rd attack than it is to hit with a single Kodachi, unless you want to pump up your Kodachi, which is usually pretty uncommon unless you really want to get a good hit on with Mask of Momentum. It does have Blade Break, which means when you defend with it, it is destroyed, but it does have a defensive 2, so, you know, at the end of the game, when it comes down to the wire, 2 defense is still, you know, pretty good. And I want to say now that this deck, on paper, looks very expensive to build. You know, I have the Tunic, we have the Mask, and we even have some Enlightened Strikes here, but you know, you can build this deck without those cards. It won't be as optimal, but the deck will still function. You won't have the Mask of Momentum pressure, which is kind of a big deal, but, you know, if, you know, push comes to shove, you can't afford a Mask or a Tunic or the Enlightened Strikes. You don't really need them, you know, to build the deck and have fun with your friends. They're just here to be as optimal as possible, and the Mask of Momentum is quite good. And minus all of those cards, the deck's actually not too expensive. If you take out the Mask, the Tunic, and the Enlightened Strikes, it's actually a pretty efficient, you know, cost-effective deck to build. So, yeah, that's the Mask. Very good card. And that's what we're going to be using it for, to apply what I would call mask pressure with our Kodachis. And since I've already mentioned the Tunic, let's go ahead and talk about it. We have Fiendel's Spring Tunic. This is a staple card in Flesh and Blood. This is a generic chest equipment, a legendary. At the start of your turn, if Fiendel's Spring Tunic has less than 3 energy counters on it, you may put an energy counter on it. And for an instant effect, remove 3 energy counters from Fiendel's Spring Tunic and gain a resource. It also has the same Blade Break ability that the Mask of Momentum has, but it only has 1 armor here. This is just a very good, solid, consistent resource over time card. It's not like super game breaking, but you can set up some turns where you could play stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to play. And there's a reason why it's as expensive as it is, even for the unlimited versions of the card. If you have it, you definitely want to run it. This is probably one of the most key cards to get just in Flesh and Blood in general, because you put it in so many decks. But like I said, if you don't have this, you can still make the deck function without it. It's just, you know, the most optimal thing to do. Next up, we have another ninja equipment with the Breaking Scales. This one has an attack reaction, destroy Breaking Scales, target attack card with combo, and that's important, it has to be a card with combo, gains +1, and then it has Battle Worn, which means you can defend with it without it breaking, and it has a defensive 1. So you can defend with this, you know, earlier on, and then use that attack reaction to pop it and give your card with combo a +1. Pretty good for setting up a good hit with the Mask of Momentum here. So if they're, you know, defending heavily, you can, you know, pop this off. So say you got your second Kodachi to hit, right? And your 3rd attack is a card with combo. You can make sure it hits with the Breaking Scales. And a lot of the cards with combo, you really want them to hit to, you know, activate their combo. So Breaking Scales is great. This is a card that is frequently cited out, though, against arcane damage matchups. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the sideboard. And finally, for the equipment loadout that I typically like to start with, we have these Snapdragon Scalers, one of my favorite cards of all time in Flesh and Blood. Love this card, and it's just a common. You don't have to have a fancy cold foil version like I do. You can just have just a regular common with a bunch of dust on it. Regular common Snapdragon Scalers. It's so good in multiple decks. Fantastic card. And it says, attack reaction, destroy Snapdragon Scalers, target attack action card with cost 1 or less, gains, go again. It's just so good. It's just so good. And you already know we have a lot of cards that cost 1 or less, because Katsu wants cards that cost 0, and the Harmonized Kodachis want cards that cost 0. So we have a lot of 0 cost cards in the deck, and we do have a few, you know, 1 cost cards as well. I don't think we have any 2 costs in this build, but yeah, Scalers are must have, you know, absolute slam dunk, and it's super cheap. You can just pick up an unlimited version for like 25 cents or whatever. All right, that is our starting loadout. We do tweak this a little bit depending on what our matchup is, but let's start talking about some of the contents of the deck. We have here the Lord of Wind combo. We have here the kick combo is what I'm going to call it. And then we have some generic, or not generic, but just some attack actions that are not combo related. Some attack reactions, defense reactions. Let's start off with the Lord of Wind combo here. And this is the entire Lord of Wind combo. You're going to end up with the Lord of Wind. The combo, just so you know, it is Surging Strike into Whelming Gust Wave. So Surging Strike into Whelming Gust Wave, into Mugenshi Release, and then finally into Lord of Wind. So this is a 4-card combo. Let's talk about these individually. These cards are all really, really good for their own right. Oh, we do have some 2-cost cards. Forgot about good old Surging Strike. Very, very simple card. 2 cost, 2 defense, 5 attack with Go Again. So it's a really good way to start your combo. We are running 3 of the red pitch here, the pink pitch Surging Strikes. For the yellow, we are running 3 as well. Still has that 4 attack even with the yellow pitch. And we do want a decent amount of pitch in this deck. Not a ton, but a decent amount. So yeah, we're running that yellow Surging Strike. And then we have the second part of the chain, the Whelming Gust Wave. This is where things start to get a little bit spicy. This is a 0-cost card, which is fantastic, once again, for the deck. A defense of 3, a little bit more than the Surging Strike, which only had 2. It has combo. It says, if Surging Strike was the last attack in this combat chain, Whelming Gust Wave gains +1, Go Again, and if this hits, draw a card. Just keep in mind that the Surging Strike didn't have to hit. It just says if it was the last attack in the combat chain. Then this gains +1, Go Again, and if it hits, draw a card. So the red version is just a 3 damage here, and we are running a full playset of the red. For the yellow, we're just running a single yellow. Mostly just for the pitch value, you know, the 0-cost yellow pitch is pretty good, but also for the combo value to chain into something a little bit better. The attack 2 is not super great. And then we have a full playset of the blue version. Blue version often gets pitched to do other things, but you know, if you really need to play it to get that +1, Go Again, and to activate the combo, then you can definitely do that. And then that all leads up to the Mugenshi Release, one of Katsu's specialization. This is a 1-cost 4-attack ninja attack action, and it says combo. If Whelming Gust Wave was the last attack in this combat chain, Mugenshi Release gains +1, Go Again, and if this hits, search your deck for any number of cards named Lord of Wind, reveal them, and then put them in your hand. Shuffle your deck. This is sweet. And keep in mind that those 2 previous cards didn't need to hit for you to be able to play Mugenshi Release. And I also want to note at this point, if you can give Whelming Gust Wave Go Again through any other means, say with your Snapdragon Scalers, so you can just start your turn, play Whelming Gust Wave, pop your Snapdragon Scalers, and then giving Whelming Gust Wave Go Again, you can immediately then play Mugenshi Release. You don't have to do the full combo. The cards with combo only look at the last card on the chain. So it says, if Whelming Gust Wave was the last attack action this combat chain, then do the thing. So what is this Lord of Wind if your Mugenshi Release actually hits? Well, it is another Katsu specialization, a really sweet one too. So it's a 0-cost card with a attack of 2. Lord of Wind, by the way, is an amazing card to pitch because you can always search it back up if you hit with your comboed Mugenshi Release. And so pitching it and putting it back on the bottom of your deck is not a bad thing, especially because it is a 0-cost blue pitch card. So you can kind of fuel your Kodachi shenanigans. So just keep that in mind. Don't be afraid to pitch your Lord of Winds. It's actually pretty good just in your deck. And it says, combo, if Mugenshi Release was the last attack this combat chain, you may pay X resource points as an additional cost to play Lord of Wind. If you do, shuffle X target cards named Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave, and or Mugenshi Release from your graveyard into your deck, then Lord of Wind gains +X. This card is sweet, super sweet. So you can do some huge combo turns here. And just getting all 3 of your Lord of the Winds from your Mugenshi Release gives you a lot of resources because you can play your first Lord of Wind and then pitch your other 2 Lord of Winds to regenerate 6 resources to get, that up to 6 additional damage there. So that's an 8 attack, which is pretty good for a cost of 0 here. So, Lord of Wind is the culmination of the Katsu chain. I think it's a pretty good one, and it's really flashy. I've only ever pulled this off once. It's really hard to pull off. Most of the time, like I said, you're just going to be like, pitch Lord of Wind, Kadachi, and then try to play like any other attack, like a Surging Strike or something like that. But if you can get there, it's really sweet. Just keep in mind, you're not always going to get there. It's pretty uncommon. Our other combo chain here is what I'd like to call the kick combo chain. All of these attacks are various kicks, culminating with either a hurricane technique or a blackout kick. These are both pretty good and pretty powerful, so we'll talk about those when the time comes. First up, we have leg tap, the start of the combo. Pretty simple one, cost of 1, 4 damage, go again. Very, very similar to that surging strike here. It's just one more resource and one more damage for the surging strike, so one less and one less for the leg tap. So combo start, pretty similar. Really, really good. Leg tap, yellow, same thing, 1 cost, 3 damage just because it's a yellow with also go again. Fantastic. So very similar to the Katsu chain. We're running a full set of the red and the full set of the yellow for the, combo initializer. Next up, we have the second part of the combo, Rising Knee Thrust. 0 cost. Once again, 0 cost is great. 3 damage with 3 defense here. It says combo, if leg tap was the last attack this combat chain, Rising Knee Thrust gains +2 and go again. That's a 0 cost, 5 damage, go again if you played leg tap last. Fantastic. So we are running a 2 of for the red version. And we're also running a 2 of the yellow version, and then a 2 of the blue version to kind of spread out the love there with the resources, because as a 0 cost card, it's just a really, really good card to generate resources, and there's not enough slots in the deck to run a full 3 of each of these. And plus, you kind of don't want to. We want to keep it a little bit lean so we can do some other stuff in the deck. And the third card in the combo here is either Hurricane Technique or Blackout Kick. So let's look at Blackout Kick first. So the 1 cost card with 4 damage, it says combo, if Rising Knee Thrust was the last attack in the combat chain, Blackout Kick gains +3. So that's a 7 damage, 1 cost attack. Pretty good way to end out the combo here. And it's a pretty short combo too, just 3 cards. Or you can have the Hurricane Technique, which is another pretty sweet one. And it says combo, if Rising Knee Thrust was the last attack this combat chain, Hurricane Technique gains +1, go again. And if Hurricane Technique hits, put it into your hand. You can do a lot of damage here. So if you did that Rising Knee Thrust here, so say you got the Rising Knee Thrust in, and it has go again through whatever means, either by doing the combo or through Snapdragon Scalers or something else. Then you play your Hurricane Kick with combo there. It's 5 damage with go again, and if it hits, puts it back in your hand. So if it hits, comes back to your hand, and then you can play it again for just 4 damage with another resource. So you can do a lot of damage with this Hurricane Technique. Either one of these is good. I put both of them in my deck. Sometimes I side out one or the other depending on the matchup, but I think they're both fantastic and just really good cards to search up with our Katsu ability if we really want to, put an end to this combo. I've pulled off this combo a lot more than I've pulled off the Katsu combo. So the 2 combo chains, the Katsu combo and the Kick combo, are kind of like the meat of the deck. So let's start talking about the buns. Talk about the buns and the condiments. So these are our generic, or not generic, but our other non-combo attack actions, and they're all just pretty good in general. We have Enlightened Strike. It's a fantastic card, very versatile. 0 cost. Once again, 0 cost is really good in this deck. 0 cost, 5 damage. As an additional cost to play Enlightened Strike, put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So it technically doesn't cost 0. You have to do, put a card from the hand on the bottom of your deck. Choose one. Draw a card, or Enlightened Strike gains +2. Or Enlightened Strike gains go again. Usually with just a 0 cost 7 attack is pretty good. And we run a full set of the Enlightened Strike, but sometimes you'll do the other ones just in case, you wanted to chain Enlightened Strike into something else, or maybe just draw a card depending on what you want to do. Typically I just do a 0 cost, 7 damage Enlightened Strike. Next up is Head Jab. This card's really, really good in this deck. It's a very simple card. Only 2 defense here. 0 cost. Once again, 0 cost is fantastic. Blue Pitch. Go again, 1 damage. That's it. 0 cost, 1 damage, go again. But we usually just end up pitching this to do our, Kadachi shenanigans. And it's just really good. I don't think I would cut Head Jab. There's a lot of other things I would cut before I cut Head Jab. Let me just put it that way. It doesn't look super powerful, but it's actually really, really good in our deck. Next up is Snatch. This is a pretty classic Flesh and Blood card. 0 cost, 2 defense, 4 damage. If Snatch hits, draw a card, and we are running a full set. Just really, really good. You can give it go again through your scalers or through some attack reactions we'll talk about. And if it hits, you get a draw card and keep that punishment going. Just a really, really good card in the deck. Synergizes with basically everything we want to do. And last up for the attack actions, we have Scar for a Scar. 0 cost, 4 damage. And as we saw with the Snatch here, 0 cost and 4 damage is a pretty good going rate. This one also has a defense of 2, and it says, when you play Scar for a Scar, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains Go Again. And we're running a full set of the red pitch, or pink pitch Scar for a Scar here. Just a fantastic card. Sometimes you will side this out against decks where you don't think you can actually get that Go Again, but I just run it, main board because it is so good. But like I said, some decks you will want to cut it out. Next up, we have some attack reactions. Pump up those attack actions. We're going to start out with Ancestral Empowerment. Fantastic ninja attack reaction. Costs 0. Once again, 0 cost. Really good. Target ninja attack action card gains +1. Has to be a ninja attack action card. Cannot be the Kodachis. Cannot be a generic. Has to be an attack action card. And it just says draw card. Doesn't even have to hit. You automatically draw the card. Really good. Especially good for putting in that 1 extra damage to land that hit so you can maybe draw off of your Mask of Momentum. It's just a fantastic card. We run a full set of these. You put these in basically every single ninja deck ever. Next up, we have Lunging Press. Kind of similar to the Ancestral Empowerment, actually. This one only has a defense of 2. Ancestral Empowerment has a defense of 3. I probably should have gone over that. But Lunging Press, 0 cost, 3 pitch. Amazing. 0 cost, 3 pitch is where you want to be with this deck. Target attack action card gains +1. So we can do other ones, not just ninja, but just an additional 1 damage, just that 1 extra damage. So you can maybe land a hit to draw off of Mask of Momentum, or land that hit to proc some of your abilities from like your Mugenshi release, or any of that kind of stuff here. Mugenshi release, so you can do that extra 1 damage and Mugenshi release, so you can kind of go get your Lord of Winds and all of that kind of stuff. And we of course are running a full play set of the Lunging Press in the deck. And then finally we have Razor Reflex, classic, very, very good Flesh and Blood card. This is a 1 cost, 2 defense generic attack reaction. It says choose 1, target sword or dagger weapon gains +3. That's pretty good. You can give your dagger +3 so you can actually hit with that second Kodachi, which is pretty good. Some people won't see that coming. Or more commonly, target attack action card with cost 1 or less gains +3, and if it hits, it gains Go Again. So you can give your, Snatch Go Again, so you can, get him with Snatch, draw a card, and then get that Go Again. Just really, really good, running a full set of the red pitch Razor Reflex. And finally, for the main deck, we have some defense reactions. Not very many of them. We're going to start off with Sink Below. 0 cost, 4 defense. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. One of the best defense reactions in the entire game. We are running a full play set of these. They're even good just in very aggressive decks, which is kind of what we want to be here with our Katsu deck. We want to be pretty aggressive, but just having the Sink Below is really, really good. I put this in almost every single deck that I make. And we are also running Flick Flack, specifically the Yellow Pitch Flick Flack. 0 cost, really good once again. Yellow Pitch. We're running the Yellow Pitch because it has a decent amount of defense here, but we can also still pitch it and do some Kodachi shenanigans here without being too punished. I don't really like the blue version quite as much because it only has a defense of 2, and the red version has a defense of 4, but it's only got that red pitch. So this is kind of like a good in-between here. And it says, if the next card you defend with this turn is a card with combo, it gains +2 defense. So just a really, really good defensive card. And finally, we have our sideboard, or what you can call deck options, because Flesh and Blood technically doesn't have a sideboard. So first up, we have Art of War. I think this card is fantastic. I end up putting this in the deck most of the time anyway. It is a 1 cost card with Yellow Pitch. No defense. It is an instant. It says choose 2. Attack action cards you control gain +1 attack and +1 defense this turn. The next action card you play this turn gains Go Again. Until end of turn, you may defend with an attack action cards from Arsenal, or you may banish an attack action card from your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. Usually I do the +1/+1 and then the draw 2 cards, but giving the next attack action card you play this turn Go Again is also really, really good. I don't know. Art of War is just a fantastic card. Like I said, I usually end up putting this in the deck, but it's like 50-50, I would say. Well, maybe not quite 50-50. 60-40? We'll go 60-40. I still think the cards are really, really good. I should probably play with it a little bit more. It's just kind of a tricky card to use, but it gives you so many options. Really, really good. Also, I have a single Life for a Life here. This is very similar to Scar for a Scar, but it does cost a resource. So in this deck, not quite as good. So it costs 1 to play, 2 defense, 4 attack, and it says if Life for a Life hits, gain 1 life, and when you play Life for a Life, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains Go Again. So like I said, very similar to Scar for a Scar. but it has that 1 cost here, which makes it not quite as good in this deck here. We also run Salt the Wound. I do like Salt the Wound a lot. I used to run it a lot more often, but I've found myself cutting it. It's still a really sweet card. It's a 0 cost card with yellow pitch, 3 defense, 2 attack, and it says Salt the Wound gains +1 for each attack that has hit this combat chain. Salt the Wound is really, really good in very aggressive matchups. If you want to be super aggressive, you put Salt the Wound in your deck. You know, against matchups where you think you can land multiple hits, this is where you want to be. And it says attack that is hit, not attack actions. So it does count your Kodachi hits, which is really important. You can do a lot of damage with Salt the Wound, especially since it costs 0. It's also really good for pitching. I do run 2 of these in the sideboard here. I think it's really good. Next up, we have Plunder Run. I know a lot of folks play Plunder Run more than I do. I do like this card, but I found myself not wanting it quite as much because playing a generic action does break your combat chain, and you know, arsenaling it, it's a little bit more difficult for this deck to do something like that than like a Ranger deck or something. But I think this card's still great. So it's a 0 cost card with 2 defense. It says the next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, draw a card. That's super good. And if Plunder Run is played from the arsenal, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3, and also has Go Again. So it's just a really, really good card. I am running a full set of the red pitch Plunder Run, but I find myself not running it quite as much as some other people, though I do put it in against certain matchups, especially ones where I think I can set up for bigger hits. You know, I can actually arsenal this and then set up for a really big hit. You know, +3 is a big deal, especially if you can give one of your cards that have like +5, like this Surging Strike here. Giving your Surging Strike +3, making it into an 8 is pretty good. Making it into an 8, and if it hits, draw a card, that's pretty good. So, you know, Plunder Run, good, but I tend to, you know, kind of leave it out of the deck more often than not, but maybe I should play with it more. Next up, we have a single Irina's Prayer, just against wizard matchups, basically. It costs 1, it's an instant. It says, reveal the top card of your deck, prevent the next X arcane damage that will be dealt to you this turn, where X is 6 minus the pitch value of the card revealed this way. So just a really good way at blocking a large chunk of arcane damage. Currently, Wizard is the big arcane damage dealing class. This doesn't really work super well against Runeblade because they have multiple instances of tiny bits of damage, but pretty good against Wizard here. And then we also have Reinforce the Line. This card's actually really good. This has impressed me a lot lately. I find myself running this a lot more often than I thought I would. It's a 0 cost card. It's an instant. It says target defending attack action card gains +4. It's really good. We have a lot of attack action cards in the deck, as you can see, lots of attack action cards. And when you're defending with one, say with your, maybe you're defending with your, it's really bad if you have to defend with your Hurricane Kick, but if you're defending with it, you can give it an additional +4 here with the Reinforce the Line. Just really good. It gets around so much stuff. Gets around Dominate. That's the big thing. You can defend with, you know, your 1 card and then pump it up with Reinforce the Line. And that's because Dominate cares about cards that you were defending with. And you're not actually defending with Reinforce the Line. It's an instant. You're just playing it, pumping up a defending card. So, you know, keep that in mind. Reinforce the Line is really good. I find myself actually putting this in more often than not. It's just a really, really good defensive card, especially for decks that run a lot of attack actions, and that's exactly what we do. And the final 2 cards here are just equipment. Breeze Rider Boots is pretty hit and miss with me. It's in a Ninja Equipment Legs. It has a defensive 1. It also has Battle Worn, so you can defend with it without it actually being destroyed. And it says, when a Ninja attack action card you control hits, you can destroy Breeze Rider Boots. If you do, attack action cards with combo gain Go Again this turn. So it's really good for setting up big combo turns, but it only affects Ninja attack actions and then cards with combo. So once again, you gotta really go deep on the combo. We do have a lot of combo here, but I find myself using the Snapdragon Scalers a lot more. I think it's just more versatile, easier to use, but Breeze Rider Boots still really good, and you can actually defend with it too. So I think it's definitely worth consideration here. And then finally we have Null Rune Gloves. Basically, Null Rune Gloves, you put it in against Runeblade. If you're playing against Viserai, put in your Null Rune Gloves so you can defend against all of those rune chants. Pretty simple. Breaking Skills isn't that big of a deal card to cut, and just slap in your Null Rune Gloves. Yep, pretty easy. And that was our Katsu Ninja Classic Constructed deck tech, and I would say this is a pretty classic Ninja deck. Just, you know, aggro, all about the combo here. You know, definitely want to use Katsu's ability as much as you can to get into the sweet combos here, but you don't really have to all that much. If you can just do like a Kodachi hit, and then like another big hit, you can still do pretty good in your games. I think this is a pretty good starting point for Ninja, especially if you want to be like get into like competitive Ninja, and you can kind of tweak it from here. Maybe adding in some of the Crucible of War combos, because I focused mostly on the 2 Welcome to Wraith combos, or adding in, you know, more defensive option, making it more control-y. There's a lot of options to do and places to go with this deck. This is just my version of the deck, and a pretty simple version of the deck, but I like it. It's really fun to play. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you like the video, then leave a like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it all so much. Share this with your friends if they like Flesh and Blood. Maybe check out my Patreon if you would like to support me directly, or use any of the affiliate links in the description down below. But without further ado, it's time to get going. So I'll see you next time for some more Flesh and Blood content. See you later.